Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time, we're asking ourselves what happened today, and what does it tell us about the coming ones. I'm doing this show 5 times a week, Sunday evenings, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and then each weekday, Monday through Thursday at the same time. Channel's L.A. Little. If you want to subscribe, just reach up in the right-hand corner and hit the subscribe button. Anytime content's push, you'll get a notification. As far as what happened today, it was Fed Day, and they got it going again. And it seems like a never-ending story. It was actually a more dovish tone by the Fed. Fed came out and said, you know what? We're not going to raise it 4 times this year, maybe twice, and the market loved it, right? They came all in, they bought it, pushed it up 0.75%. You got the Nikkei up at 1.5% today. The DAX was up 0.5. The sell-off was in the dollar, right? And as a result of that, you had huge spikes in the commodities: gold, silver, oil. All of them spiked. They spiked big, and that's going to be the story tomorrow. And the DAX is going to be the story tomorrow. So let's start with that, and that being the dollar, right? Dollar takes a tumble, heading towards the swing point lows, hits it with volume as it comes into the top of it. If you pull this back, put it on a weekly, what you're going to see is this thing's going for the bottom of the range. And so the dollar has been in this higher range. It's been holding up here this whole time. But now you see price starting to move back down in the bottom end of that range, going after that big high volume low, probably, certainly coming into this swing point low, coming into the one that you just saw on the daily. And if we pull this back a little bit farther, put it on a monthly time frame, what you're going to see there is that big range that's been in effect at the highs now is going to be under some pressure. And so you've had this big range, and inside it was that range we just drew, which was roughly there. That's what the dollar's doing. It's going to come into the bottom of that because the Fed says we're not going to raise rates, and we're not going to do them nearly as much as you thought, or we thought we were going to do them. And the market's been thinking that for a while. Now the Fed's coming around. The market loves it. If you flip it over and you go to the opposite side of it, which is the FXE, the FXE has been the opposite case, right, with the range down here. In the FXE, if you remember, last week, Draghi went out and said, you know what, we're going to push this euro down lower. We're going to inflate ourselves out of this. But it reversed on him. You got the big spike up, reversal, and now it reversed on him this week, today in particular, with the Fed doing what it did. So it was a total surprise to many of the participants. It's certainly a surprise to me. I thought we were going to see a more hawkish tone because Draghi had provided, the cover to allow it to happen again, like what happened last time. But that's not what happened. And the Fed came out and said, you know what, we're not going to raise the rates. The world's too weak. We can't raise rates. And so now we have the opposite situation, right, where now Draghi's going to get pressured. And his euro, because of his euro trying to rise up to go up here and test this 111 area, potentially the 112.5, and maybe even all the way to the top. And if that happens, folks, I don't see how the DAX is going to be able to stand it. So if we pop over and look at the DAX itself, here the DAX, this was the Draghi bar, top of it was 9995. You got over it again today, back under it, less volume. Tomorrow's going to be the key, right? Does a stronger euro affect the equities, or can the equities leg higher even with a stronger euro? If they can do that, well, then this rally can continue. If they can't, they're going to reverse back down. They're going to trade back down to the backside. That's going to put pressure probably back on our markets, and we're going to see some pressure. So this, to me, now becomes the key. And, of course, there's one more key, and that's going to be the commodities. And if we pop over, look at the USO, see what that looks like, you're going to see the spike back up today to the top of the range. So this is, in the USO, at least right now, is tracking with respect to the the underlying, which is the WTI. So you had the push up, right? You got the consolidation. Now you get a big push up. Now you get a consolidation. Can they do it again? Can they push this thing on up to around $50 WTI? That's going to be the question. Tomorrow's probably going to be an answer to that, because you certainly got things rolling tonight on the commodity markets. You saw it here. You saw it in gold. You saw it goes up at the top of the range again. You saw it in silver. If you go look at the gold stocks push. They push with volume. They're at the highs. They pushed it with volume. They're going to test it tomorrow, and they're going to try to stretch this thing even higher. Commodities in vogue, have been in vogue. We've seen it here. We've seen it in the XLB. If we pop in and look at the XLB, you've seen the same thing in the XLB. Certainly you've seen it in the XLE. These have been the leading sectors over the last 2 months off those Feb lows. They are what has been pushing this market higher the last couple of days. You actually had the XLK helping to participate and push these things. Today it also got another push. This is what's moving the market right now. Commodities, technology this week. Now you've got the juice from the Fed saying, hey, let the dollar come down. It's going to put pressure on the euro to go higher, potentially pressure on the equities in Europe, and that will be the real question tomorrow. Can they push this higher or not off of what the Fed has done? Let's take a look at our markets. There's nothing in our markets to suggest a turn still. I mean, it's been an endless trek back to the north side, much more so than most people think. You do have two things you're coming into here on the daily and the weekly. You got this big bar. When you get up into this bar like it is, right, if we draw it back this side, you can see you're deep into that bar. That says you're going to try to reach the top of the bar. If we draw that in, you know, straighten out the lines there, that's probably about 2040.81. Now that's on the daily. You also have on the weekly the top of the breakdown bar. And as you've seen before, the tops of the breakdown bars are difficult places to get over. Here was the top of the breakdown bar from August last year. You get all the way back up there, just like we're doing now. You get up there, and then they eventually slam it lower. They play around for a while, and then eventually give it all up again. You're coming right back up to the top of that bar. That top is 38, I believe. Yeah, 2038. You traded tonight and closed it at 2027. You're 11 points away, not that far. Looks like it's going to try to make that run, and that's going to be the key on our equities. But whether or not we get up there, I believe, goes back to what happens to the DAX tomorrow, and whether or not the DAX can trade higher on a stronger euro. That's going to be a tough bill. We'll see if it happens. My guess is, you know, that it's going to struggle and struggle mightily. The futures are up tonight. You've got some futures up in Asia. We'll see if the DAX can actually hold it. I think it's going to be a real struggle as the dollar continues to weaken. And that's where we're at tonight. So, you know, where are we going next? I think we're going to struggle at these highs. You got about 11 points more on the S&P. It can stretch to. The DAX itself is going to test those swing points. Actually, not the swing point, but the Draghi high again tomorrow. And that's where we either give it up or we get it up and keep going. See you tomorrow. Good night.